Welcome, dear friends, in the next episode on ritual. We are going to talk a little bit more about ritual. In the previous episode, we talked more about ritual from the Western perspective, but because this is a comparative issue, I had cut it in two parts because I had so much time for talking about all kind of stuff, considering ritual in both East and West, that we are now at this moment getting to the second part where we will focus more on the Chinese part. Wait for a few surprises because maybe you can remember the last part from the first episode where I said,
So you can say that human and animal behavior in that sense is ritualized in its most natural form.
what it means, I think, is that for a peaceful life, it is best to be conscious in our actions and to ritualize our actions in a way that it becomes clear for everybody what we are doing and why we are doing things. Because at that moment we avoid conflict. And we have said a little bit more about that.
And at the moment when we take what we presume to be freedom to do whatever we want, we actually create conflict and chaos, and we disorder our life so that we get out of harmony with the natural order of things.
I often repeat a citation from the Yin-Yang, where it says in hexagram number 24, go against the Tao, and you will see the results in 7 days. And I've pointed it out to you. It seems pretty much clear to me that it is important to stay conscious of why we are doing things and how we are doing things, and to make sure that we are understanding that our actions are a form of communication with our environment. So let's go delve deeper into this topic and show a few more examples from the past on how we are thinking about this as a humanity, but then from the Asian perspective more.
Sir Roger Penrose, he's a sir, right?
Mouse? Is Roger Penrose a sir? Do you know? There's blood on his head.
Yes. Anyway, Roger Penrose, he suggests that what we perceive as reality is mostly a mental construct, and as a result of the fact that what we see and perceive is a mental construct, that means that we find meaning in things. For instance, you have a book, any kind of book, yes, and you have a word in that book, that word, that chapter, all these kind of things, they are mental constructions. And because of the constellation of these mental constructions, we come to an understanding of what things mean. So a word is depending on its context. And when we see a book, we also automatically have an understanding of the context of the book. Even if we don't know the word, we can understand what it is because of just viewing it. So in any kind of language, we see a book, we know this is a book. We come in any kind of country and we have that understanding with us, that is part of us. But he says this is a mental construct, and this mental construct is created in what he thinks sort of a Platonic sense, and that means that it is not the reality as it is. It is just a shadow of the reality that it is. And as a result of that, we are very often wrong about things, and we have to observe things to find out what it means. And in physics, therefore, you have this idea that by looking into this physics, you see something of the world as it really is. So this reality behind the Platonic idea of the mental construct, this is what is seen as the physicist's reality, what is operated in places like CERN in Switzerland, for instance. Ooh. Similarly, Robert Sheldrake, he suggests that the senses, they play out as a field phenomena. Robert Sheldrake was another scientist, and he says that we co-create the concrete reality as we see it. So that means that the things that are there and the way how we see them, they are being co-created. So this is there's a sort of mutualism between us and the things or the people that we see. And it means that things do not exist by themselves as what they are to us, but we give them meaning. And that meaning giving is something that we learn as a child, and by the continuous repetitive learning of words, concepts, and so on and so forth, we basically ritualize our understanding, and therefore we know what things are, and we know what the words mean, and so on and so on. So ritual is very deeply baked into our body and baked into our mind, and as a result, that's magically almost we have a control over things, because we know that this is to scoop something up. We know that this is something we can put the tea in, and we know that this is where we mix the tea. You can recognize that even though you don't have it. And we know that we drink the tea not from that pot, but from another cup. Then we further ritualize by combining colors or patterns and so on. So as a result of that, we create a particular kind of aesthetic value. And this aesthetic value helps us to enjoy and engage more with the thing. And this is what we do also when we practice Tai Chi Chuan. We beautify our movements by getting deeper into it through the way how we engage with the movements. And as a result of that, get into a deeper understanding of it. And every time when we repeat the Tai Chi Chuan form, for instance, or the Qigong form or Daoyin form, because of the attitude we do it with, the ritualizing attitude, we gradually come to understand it more. And this is also why it is a piece of art, why it is a mechanism of art. You saw over time with many artists, they make many sketches before they actually make a painting. With modern visual arts, that is much less the case, because very often the sketches are made in a script, and then that script is being put into a formula, say a software formula, to create a particular kind of image, and therefore it seems creative, but it copies nature through calculus, but it is not of a natural order. This is one of the problems that we also see with all these modern AI programs, because these AI programs, they are calculus. They're not really smart, they're not really intelligent, but they copy things, and they do this because they know that with particular kind of tricks they can make us awe about what is coming out of these machines. But as a proper observer of nature, you can very quickly see, like, this is not real, even though it seems photorealistic what they make, but it is not really real. And that is very often very frustrating. So you see that the world is flooded with irreal things that suppose to us that they are real, like games are creating a virtual reality for children, and they stick with that for a long time. One of my daughters at a certain point said, like, about a situation like, yeah, this is almost like in the game, and she experiences, because of gaming, the events in the games which are written by people as more real than the things in real life, because in real life they're more organic, they're more chaotic, and as a result of that, you can see that it is of a very different order. Now, I think it's time that I talk about Zhu Si. Zhu Si is one of the founding fathers in the Song dynasty of Neo-Confucianism, and however you want to turn it, you can't see modern Taoism from the Ming dynasty onward and the Song dynasty onward, actually, without thinking about also Zhu Si as a founding thinker for these kind of things. One of the things that he talks about is the combination of Li and Qi, and he says about Li and Qi, Li in that sense means principle, is something of a different order than Qi. Qi can be accumulated, so that means that even though Qi doesn't really flow through your arteries, it's the Yang or the Yin in the form of water or blood or something, but the Qi can be accumulated because of repetitive movements. You accumulate the virtue or quality, the inherent quality of you being you becomes bigger because of repetitive practice. And as a result of this repetitive practice, the quality of the Qi is being gathered and collected and becomes more. And it means that you eventually become radiant from the quality that you have. Uh, I'm waiting already for a long time on getting older, because the older I get and the better I can keep on doing things, the more it proves that what I teach actually is really valuable. A young teacher is a bad teacher for the simple reason that everything is easy when you are young. You haven't achieved anything yet. So you need an older teacher to be able to be good. So when somebody is practicing for 2 years or 5 years or whatever, he might have a slight understanding, but a deep understanding requires years and years and years of practice. And as a result of that, you should also see in the body, in the behavior, in the learning, in the scholarship, you should see a particular kind of manifestation of that learning. Because without that scholarship, without piercing through the veil and the mist of the populist illusions, you cannot really achieve anything with your Tai Chi Chuan or your meditation or anything like that. You need to get beyond that, and you have to also get behind the ordinariness of daily life. You have to learn how to get into touch with what you can call the divine, and that means the inherent order of things through which things become harmonious. What you said about Li, meaning principle, is that Li determines the nature of things. And Li, in that sense, relates also to Tao. Tao and Li come together. In the I Ching course that I'm giving, we talk extensively about it when we talk about the nature of Tao as to define what Yin and Yang actually is all about. But at the moment, when you talk about Li and principles, these things cannot be collected and gathered. They are inherent in things. So everything has its Li. This has its Li, the pen has its Li, the table has its Li, the cooling water has its Li, the glasses have their Li, I have my Li, and you have your Li at the same time. So whatever happens, however much we practice, the principles do not become more or better ingrained. It's just that because of the nature of principles, we are actually able to become better at something and therefore gather chi, momentum, you can say. And this is also why there's a lot of discussion about what chi actually means. At the moment, when you talk about energy, that means actually this is the inherent quality of things. And this inherent quality of things actually is the Li, right? So if you talk about Li as energy, maybe you are already more right, but you are still wrong. When you talk about the Qi, that is the actual manifestation of quality as becoming apparent. You do not have energy. Energy is only the calculus of the potential that you have, the manifestation that you have. So if this is Qi, then this is energy, and this is Li. This is very important to understand the difference between these things. And therefore, in my classes, I never talk about energy because it is not relevant for the art of Tai Chi Chuan or Qi Kung. If it would be relevant, we would be ticking time bombs, because energy is only liberated when we walk against the wall and we feel pain, or when we burn ourselves and we feel heat. This is the moment when energy is being transferred. And at the moment when, of course, we send out Qi, this is called fire Qi, right? This fire Qi is, of course, transferable. And this is a quality which is not exactly Qi. It is a particular kind of hot quality that is being transferred. That means that it can move outside ourselves, and we can only make it from our surplus, because if we use that without having that kind of surplus that we need for that in the other two kinds of Qi, then at that moment we are going to exhaust ourselves, and we lay the groundwork for our aging and decay and disease and dementia and so on. I hate talking about that subject. It comes too often. I also want to talk about Baron Terhaar. Baron Terhaar is a very famous publisher, and he a writer, a scientist, and he talks, I have it here, he talks about ritual and mythology in the Chinese triads. And he says that this ritual as being shaped in the triads is in fact meant to shape identity. And this is very interesting because we already ascertained that ritual is to help you co-create reality around you, but it is also there to help you create identity. Because if you co-create the reality around you, you also co-create your own internal reality that is in relationship with this other thing. And in the triads, he said, they perform particular kind of rituals like incense burning and so on and so on to gradually create group identity, because the identity of the individual always is dependent on the identity of the group that you belong to. So students who study with me, they have different kind of identity than students who study with somebody else. And their identity is more exclusive if they have more knowledge, and it is less exclusive when they have less knowledge. If they have pseudo knowledge, it's even less important. So this is also hooking back to some of the other things that I talked about in this video. For instance, making these videos is a ritual I go through every week. And every week I do my research, I prepare something, and I talk about something. And I do that to improve myself, to improve you if I can, or at least try to contribute something to your life. But in fact, what I do is I co-create my reality through which I get into a better context and a better contact with what I actually do for my clients and for my students. And my advice would be, of course, for you not to do exactly the same like what I do, but to ritualize your life and to therefore also co-create your life more. And it can be something in the way how you cook. You might not like cooking, but by cooking, you ritualize your food behavior. And as a result of co-creating your food behavior with your food, you actually start validating your food better, and therefore also have a much better result of it. You can let go of all the superfoods, you can let go of the processing and so on, because at the moment when you are really eating properly, you will know what to learn from your food and not to fill yourself up. Bharat also points out that Li plays a role in these rituals. These rituals is about numbers, from the amount of people who are inside the triad, from the repetition of particular kind of moves. For instance, my altar is here behind me, you can maybe see it. But in the rituals, you burn a particular kind of set of incense sticks, and these incense sticks, they go to a particular kind of address in the three realms or the three pure ones or anything like that, mostly in combinations of threes. By performing these operations, you actually reach out towards the divine and you make contact with it. As also when you are performing your Tai Chi Chuan, you do it 3 times. You actually reach out to your Tai Chi Chuan and you create a bond with it. The way how I teach Tai Chi Chuan to people as being shaped in very old traditions is therefore also including all kind of shapings of your attitudes and of your personality and your relationship with people you might or you might not fight. And that is very important. Oh, I said, by the way, that Tusi says that she can gather, but that is not true. I forgot, this is Xue Xuan, it's a Ming scholar who actually said that. You'll find about that in the records of the Ming scholars. This one, if you can find it, it will be really great to read. It is very enlightening, and especially because Tai Chi Chuan goes back to Zhang Sanfen, and the core of the development of Tai Chi Chuan was actually in the Ming dynasty, even though Zhang Sanfen himself was from the Song dynasty. Xue Xuan, he said that Li is like sunlight, and he also said that Qi is like a bird, and you can compare these ones with each other because the way how sunlight falls on the bird, you can see the shape of the bird. So the Qi, because of its gathering, it actually is the foundation of the development of form, while Li are the principles through which that form can manifest itself. The Jing that we develop in Jinggong is meant to create that kind of fog inside ourselves, and we have to gradually manifest that in our body form. Our body form is the manifestation of our inherent nature. That's the Li, and as a result of that, you can see that in Qigong, by practicing a lot, gradually our body gets a more natural shape and you feel more natural and comfortable inside your body as a result of that. And that is very different than when you go to the gym and you do, for instance, isotonic practice, where you are developing the tenseness of the muscles by standing in a long time in a particular posture or by planking. Even though planking is a particular aspect of Qigong, in the way how it's being practiced in Kung Fu, it is not meant in the way how it is being used in the gym. In fact, the gym is part of calculus, while Tai Chi Chuan is part of natural operation, using natural forces and being part of nature. So I think this basically sums up already a lot of things that I wanted to say about ritual. So what we can say as a conclusion is that ritual is what you can call an operation in reality, and also is a co-creation. So it is not just a creation in reality as it is. You're not manifesting something in reality, but you're co-creating in that reality. That's different than when people talk about I'm manifesting things, because they're not co-creating. They see themselves as the high intelligent creator of things, as if they are a divine being, but this is not what it is. Co-creation means that you reach out to the world and you, through repetitive action, you actually gradually adapt your reality. Magic is not getting something out of nothing, but it is actually adapting the reality around you, magical enough as it is. And ritual also uses principles, Li, and these are very important. Without principles, there is no magic, there is no ritual, there is no co-creation, because what you create needs these principles to be able to operate it, and as a result of that, bend things to your will and your intention, and as a result of that, ritual makes reality, and that's the chi, right? So you create reality because of the operations that you do. Then ritual also helps to avoid conflict. We talked about that too. That is a very important part. In modern magic, we very often talk about that magic always has a price, but in the ritualization of reality, you perform magic without having to pay a price because you seek harmony. That means that you avoid paying a price, but you get more invested in things. So also then when you get out of that thing, then you will pay a price. Like for instance, you ritualize yourself into a relationship, but then you think to yourself like, oh, I thought this relationship, but it doesn't work, and you want to tear yourself away from that person. That is going to be painful because reality then quickly is being bent into another way, and as a result that the shock of it is large. Ritual is also performed through creating mental and physical moments. So that means that, for instance, if I make tea and I pour myself the tea and I do this with full intent and I'm only busy with this thing, then at that moment I create a moment. And this moment that I created prepares for the next moment, namely when I am going to drink my tea and I'm going to sip it. And I'm going to let my tea enter my body and feel comfortable with it. Oh, this tea actually is so delicious. Then ritual, we also talked about, uses repetition to create habituation or habits. And as a result of that, you can say that ritual is a habitual performance of actions where we can feel safe and comfortable inside. As a result of this habituation, we create renewal or we create change or whatever we want to do. And we shape the life in a particular kind of way, and that is in a way an offering, the way how we invest ourselves into things. At the moment we see we have to really make a big change, we have to sacrifice something, like for instance an addiction, or we have to sacrifice a relationship, or we have to sacrifice a job because the change that is necessary is large. Like for instance the environment, a lot of people, if they become really aware of what the environmental change that we need to survive is, they would give up their jobs. They would rather be unemployed than work in that kind of industry or in that kind of governance. A lot of people, they don't believe in these things, and they prefer to believe in money, calculus. So this is basically what the conflict in the world is about. Is it about natural, or is it about calculus? Give me a suggestion how to resolve this. Anyway, I'm very grateful for you thinking about this and letting your remarks be noted in the subtext. And at the moment when you are enjoying it, you have some benefits from it, I'm going to be really very grateful. And I'm also very happy with everybody who supports my material by donating or by becoming a member or by joining the classes, because all these kind of things are very valuable to me, because it's part of my learning process too. And what I share with you during my class or anything like this is always a reflection of everything that I learned. The ritual of giving classes I always take very serious, and I always try to be as fair as possible with what somebody needs to know at the moment when they are learning something. I do not try to impose my will only about energy, because that one I think is the lowest of the lowest of understanding, and you need to get rid of it. And I'm not being praised for that view, even though a lot of scientists actually came to agree with me over the time that I already say this. Many authors, researchers, they agree about these things. Because history proves that I am right and that people who talk about energy are wrong in all cultures. Okay, so let's see each other next time.